Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. I've had a rough week this week for a number of reasons. Um, the only saving grace so far for this week has been my reading of The Seven Deadly Sins by Nakaba Suzuki. I finished the series off this weekend, so I read the final 10 volumes Saturday and Sunday, so volumes 32 through 41. That reading was sandwiched by two bails, and the second bail threw my reading week into, or the rest of the reading week during the work week, into some chaos. And I'll get to that after I talk about the Seven Deadly Sins, because I want to start with what pleased me this week before I get to the bails. So, for those of you who don't know, The Seven Deadly Sins by Nakaba Suzuki is a 41-volume manga series inspired by the Arthurian legends. The series takes place in a land called Britannia, where there are a number of kingdoms, amongst them Lyonesse and Camelot. At the beginning of the series, the king of Lyonesse, Baltra, has been overthrown by the Holy Knights, an order of superhuman knighthood who claim to be preparing for a forthcoming holy war that Baltra is reluctant to fight. Baltra's youngest daughter, Princess Elizabeth, flees the kingdom to search for the Seven Deadly Sins, another order of superhuman knighthood who 10 years previously were accused of assassinating the then head of the Holy Knights and trying to overthrow the kingdom. Elizabeth finds Meliodas, the former leader of the Seven Deadly Sins, and together they go in search of the other six to defeat the Holy Knights and restore Baltra to his throne. As the first 5 of the 7 are recruited by Meliodas, and the conflict with the Holy Knights sort of takes center stage. It's revealed that the two chief Holy Knights are planning to restore the demon race. So 3,000 years previously, there was a holy war between the goddess clan, or the goddesses, the humans, the fairies, and giants against the demons. The war ended with the goddesses sacrificing their physical forms to seal the demons away. So at the end of this first arc, while the Holy Knights are defeated, the demons are let loose, primarily the 10 strongest, called the 10 Commandments. And they begin to conquer Britannia, starting with Camelot, and launching several attacks on Lyonesse. So the Seven Deadly Sins and the Reformed Holy Knights join together to repel these demonic attacks. And gradually the 10 Commandments are defeated, and the final battle begins, which these final 10 volumes explore, the final battles. So initially the story is split into several storylines. Meliodas has decided to succeed his father as the Demon King, and Elizabeth, who has been restored to her memories and goddess powers, is leading the Seven Deadly Sins and the Holy Knights to try to bring Meliodas back. So Meliodas is in Camelot, becoming the Demon Lord. Elizabeth, Deanne, King, and Gowther, along with Hauser, Gwylia, and some archangels, Sariel and Termiel, are leading sort of an advance force on Britannia, cleaning up whatever demon assaults they come across, forces they come across, while a second force, led by the Archangel Ludoshel, along with Merlin, Escanor, Gilt Thunder, and a reformed Hendrickson, are planning to infiltrate Camelot covertly. Meanwhile, another group, including Dreyfus and Griamore, are protecting Lyonesse itself. Meanwhile, two of the Ten Commandments, Monspeed and Derriere, are in hiding. They've taken refuge amongst human civilians or human villagers, and they seem intent to basically live out their lives amongst the people who've taken them in. Unfortunately for them, Estarossa comes. Estarossa is the third son of the Demon Lord. His older brothers are Meliodas and Zoldrus. So Estarossa kills Monspeed and knocks Derriere into the oncoming force led by Princess Elizabeth. And Estarossa follows and kidnaps Elizabeth. And then that leads into one heck of an arc that reveals that Estarossa is not quite who he appears to be, and has some wonderful character development with King. And that's an awesome storyline. The infiltration of Camelot is pretty cool too, particularly Escanor and Merlin. They're just awesome. And gradually things come to a head. And Meliodas kind of comes to as the Demon Lord. Meanwhile, Ban has been in purgatory trying to find Meliodas' emotions. And that's wonderfully well done. It's awesome. And then the Seven Deadly Sins against the Demon Lord for round 1 of the final fight, which then extends into a second fight with the Demon Lord in a third round, which I know the series has been a bit criticized for the final battle, but I thought the 3 rounds with the Demon Lord were amazing. I loved it. And then the series wraps up with setting the stage for the sequel series, The Four Knights of the Apocalypse, which I'm seriously tempted to start collecting sooner rather than later. So let me show you some of the images I really, really enjoyed from this. So there's Monspeed and Derriere against Estarossa. And then I love this chapter opening, this chapter cover. And then there's Derriere walking up to the army. I love that cover. And then here's that. And like that. And then there's an image of Meliodas. And then here's Van and Meliodas in Purgatory. And then them closed up. Because I love that. So there's the actual form of the Demon Lord. And then really want to show you the my favorite scene with the king. Oh yeah, that's awesome. And then there's that where Esterosa, or male as he actually is, kind of reveals himself. But I love this sequence here where King basically sort of develops gets his fully mature fairy wings, and it's an awesome sequence. Um, and then I loved it when I read it. It's just amazing. And then there's Male after he's been his senses knocked back into him. So yeah, it was amazing. Just I had a lot of I like this chapter cover. um, and then that. So yeah, I had a absolute blast with these um, volumes. I they were amazing, just absolutely amazing. They were these 4 volumes. I mean, 70 Cents is an amazing series, but I loved it. So yeah. Anyway, I need to just hurry up and get on to what didn't necessarily please me, because I'm a bit of I have a bit of a time crunch because I'm expecting a delivery from FedEx in, and if you notice, well, I don't know necessarily if you've ever really been able to notice, um, but I'm going to, after I wrap up this weekly reads, I'm going to move my manga, and I'll talk a bit about that after I do my plans for this forthcoming reading week. So my original plan for this reading week was to read the Seven Deadly Sins with the final volume here over the work week, and that over the weekend I would have read The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot, for Ricktober. So I had some unfinished business with The Mill on the Floss. I had a go at this book about 20 years ago, and I didn't get on with it. And that stayed with me for almost 2 decades. And I picked this copy up a few years ago for a Victober because I really wanted to have another go at The Mill on the Floss. So The Mill on the Floss is about a young woman named Maggie who, when she grows up, gets involved in a bit of a love triangle. Her one lover is the love of her life. Unfortunately, his father is an enemy of her father and later her brother. So her brother basically tells her she cannot pursue a relationship with this young man. Her other lover is her cousin's fiance, who she meets when she. Well, let me back up. So Maggie is a clever young woman who, given her circumstances, is denied the intellectual stimulation that she yearns for. And so she eventually ends up in a love triangle with the young man that she's prevented from marrying because of familial family feud. And the other one, once she's brought into the sort of society that her cousin has sort of inculcated or fostered in their community, she gets involved with her fiance. And this sort of ruins her until a flood devastates the region, and her brother finally make up, and they both die in the flooding. I did not get that far. I did not make it out of their childhood. So the novel starts with Maggie and her brother as children. And it's basically I bailed when her brother Tom came home from school. And I didn't like it at all. It's just the setting the scene, the characters, the dialogue, the narrator, whatever the heck the narrator is, it just. I know Steve Donahue, when he did his Victober videos, the introduction and the Victorian starter kit, that you need to let the writer, the author, set the scene, to set the furniture. But what happens when the furniture is bad from the beginning, that you just don't like the furniture from the get-go, that you really need to fire the interior decorator? So, yeah. So I think the next time you will probably see this copy of The Mill on the Floss will be when I announce my unhaul. And unfortunately, the book I decided to read over the course of the work week, since I read The Seven Deadly Sins over the weekend, was Queen Victoria's Matchmaking by Deborah Cadbury. So this is a look at sort of the royal marriages that Queen Victoria and her husband, Prince Albert, made for their children. And it looks at certain of Queen Victoria's crowned grandchildren, both as monarch in their own right, as well as consorts. And I hated the writing. I mean, I was interested in the subject, but the writing was just terrible. So I spent the rest of this reading week going through my Amazon wish list, sampling chapters. And I made some progress in clearing out some books that I am not that interested in reading, which is good. And also just maybe, I'm a bit more interested in science fiction and fantasy right now, because there are quite a few fantasy novels that I might be interested in picking up. So we'll see how that develops. So I think today and over the course of the weekend, I have some options. For history, there is Empress by Miles Taylor. This is a look at Queen Victoria's relationship with India. I could also have another go at Soul Mountain by Gao Xinjian, which I read in the early 2000s and bailed on. So, bit of unfinished business here too. I could also have a go at Our Man in Iraq by Robert Perisic. Not entirely sure who the translator is. Okay. Translated by Will Firth. And A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan. I could also have a go at The Martian by Andy Weir, which I was thinking of having a go at during my back to school reading event thing that didn't actually happen this year. Or I could have another go at The Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnston. And of course, over the course of the work week, I will be finishing off A Demon Slayer by Koyoharu Gotouge. I have the final 4 volumes en route. I should get them in either tomorrow or early during the work week. Normally, when I get packages in from Powell's, they end up coming on Saturdays, but I don't know for sure because it depends exactly when the package is going to be processed by the regional postal facility. Sometimes it'll be like relatively quickly and it'll be in tomorrow, but more than likely it'll be in Monday or Tuesday. So I'll do a haul then and read the final 4 volumes later in the work week. So it'll be volumes 13 to 23. And I'm really looking forward to it because this series is fantastic. It's about a young man named Tanjiro and his sister Nezuko who one day the family is attacked by demons. Tanjiro is off. Okay, so let me back up. So this series takes place in the Taisho era of Japan, so the early 20th century. Tanjiro is off to sell coal, while a demon attacks the family, with Nezuko being the only survivor, and she's been infected and transformed into a demon. Tanjiro impresses a wandering demon slayer and is invited to join the Demon Slayer Corps, where he goes to train and becomes a demon slayer with Nezuko as sort of a sidekick, because she gets involved in the fighting quite a bit, and while she isn't trained, she does handle herself quite well. And so their goal is to find the first demon so that they can kill him and free Nezuko from her curse of being a demon. And I've been loving this series, and I cannot wait to get to the final 11 volumes. So that's my plan for this coming reading week. But today, before I start my reading plan, my day's reading, whichever one of this batch of books it will be. Oh, I'm forgetting the Maleficent 7. I'm planning on moving my manga. So for months now, my manga have been on this wall behind me. But I don't like it. It's not an ideal solution. In no small part because this upper shelf here, while I can hold a large number of books, there are dividers interspersed that can only hold about 20 volumes. So if I have a series that is over 20 volumes, I have to move them because having that divider, it's not aesthetically pleasing. So I have to move them. But the problem is the only bookcase the bookcase that I'm currently using, which is right here, it's got its issues too. So I'm basically going to flip the history wall and the manga wall and see how that looks for a week. And this will also give me the opportunity to take a harder look at my history collection and decide what I want to keep and what I might want to get to with an eye to perhaps unhauling them. But I might also next week move the history books into the hall and bring the science fiction and fantasy books that are currently in the hall out into here, so that the science fiction and fantasy are united. Since I have some of the science fiction and fantasy out in the hall and some in here, which kind of bugs me too. So anyway, that's my plan for this coming reading week. As far as videos for next week, there's going to be some manga videos because I want to talk about what series I'm going to be following next, because I've just finished off the Seven Deadly Sins. I'm about to finish off Demon Slayer, which leaves only Naruto as the series that I'm kind of actively collecting to completion. I mean, I do have a number of series that are still in publication that are being released, but those are kind of, I don't quite count them anymore into the 7 because I'm not actively collecting multiple volumes. I'm collecting them as they come out. But I'll explain a lot more about that next week. Also, I've been thinking about doing like one or two BookTube help videos where I want to ask BookTube for some help, because there's a manga series that I'm collecting that I have 3 volumes left, and those 2 volumes are a pain in the rear end to find, and so I would like some advice on where else to look outside of what I already have or my sources. And I also have a conundrum about cookbooks that I want to make a video about. And of course, there'll be some tag videos because there are still some awesome tags that have been coming out lately that I want to do, and anything else that comes to mind. Also, I want to start thinking about special videos to make for my 1000th video, as well as my 1500th book, because both of them are coming up. So any BookTube, that's all I've got for this week. So thank you. Have a great afternoon. And yeah, well, technically for me it's still morning, but well, only for about 30 more minutes. So have a great afternoon and weekend. And until I see you next time, stay safe.